What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and today we're here with the second Sugo Fest exclusive character to debut for the anniversary, and this is going to be for ODEN TOKI, a character that no one would have predicted to arrive for the anniversary, and this does fully confirm that the new Enma gauge mechanic that we saw in the files is not pertaining to this ODEN. This is going to be relating to a future likely Zoro character. But as for ODEN TOKI, this is a very interesting character, and yeah, it is confirmed to be a dual unit. So here we have the information here. Shout out to the Twitter account for putting it together, and it is interesting that this character is actually a super tandem unit, so that was something a little left field, and once again confirming that this is not a Rush Sugo special mechanic character. For some reason, the debut Annie characters don't have the new mechanic that they brought out for the anniversary, which doesn't really make a lot of sense at all. So there is going to be more characters in the future relating to Rush Sugo special. But let's actually talk about this new ODEN TOKI. So it is a dual unit, as we said. ODEN is a quick character. Toki is a strength character. So you gotta make sure you know that, because that is kind of important with the way you build this character's kit. But it is a free spirit slasher, likely going to be free spirit and slasher on both sides of the character. Pinch heal, crit, and super tandem. So no real surprises there, honestly. We go over to the captain ability. The captain ability of this unit is a mono slasher focused character, so this really feels like a unit that really should have debuted alongside K-Dad. This unit just feels like it just goes with K-Dad so well, but obviously the fact that, you know, this unit, the thing with K-Dad is you really want to use units that have like the Paradise Totsuka special, and this character special is not Paradise Totsuka, so you know, it is what it is. But mono slasher, 5.25 times captain, boosting their attack by a further 1.1 when they have a tandem or a Wano slot, and then boost their health by 1.2, heals the crew by 1.5 times recovery for every perfect. That's actually a lot of healing. That's a lot of healing, and this is the dual captain, by the way, so you got to take that into consideration. Reduces this character's cooldown by 2 turns, and reduces their switch effect by 1 turn every time a slasher crewmate uses a special. I love that. I really dig that effect, honestly. I want to just quickly pull up the calculator to multiply this together. So it is a 5.25 times captain, and then a 1.1 boost if you have a tandem or a Wano slot. 5.775. That's a lot of damage. That is a lot of damage. But at the end of the day, you do have to think this is a mono slasher captain. And the reason why I think this is kind of an odd choice is because this does not synergize with the Luffy and Yamato batch at all. The fact that they've just randomly injected this unit here doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It really just feels like a subsidiary character that, you know, you can play around with. They're pretty cool, but it won't synergize really with the ODEN, with the Yamato and Luffy, at least in terms of captains. It just doesn't make sense at all. Captain ability wise, it's good, but for mono slasher, I mean, K-Dad have been out for a long time, and people don't really use mono slashers all that much. Let's move on to their special though. The special ability, 14 turns, heals the crew by 40 times character's recovery, and allows you to overheal, so that's a cool mechanic. Reduces despair and paralysis by 7 turns. That's a pretty good piece of utility right there. Applies a minus 50% slasher resistance to all enemies for 1 turn. Pretty good. Boosting the color affinity of normal attacks for slashes by 2.75 for 1 turn. Become ODEN TOKI only for 1 turn. Interesting. I didn't even see that before. Okay, so yeah, you gotta think, right? And you gotta think just in terms of mono slasher, right? You get overheal, despair and paralysis reduction, 50% resistance down, 2.75 color affinity, and then they fuse to the dual unit for only 1 turn, which is kind of weird. But this is, you know, this is kind of interesting because, you know, the fact that, you know, this is just reminding me a lot of like the waifus, where the waifus last year, you know, they have a really strong utility special, but they also had a healing part of their special, and they also had huge color affinity to striker and free spirit. And then this is just kind of like that, but for slashes. And the fact that they're a dual unit that they only fuse for 1 turn, I kind of don't like that. Unless if their solo captain is like relatively similar to their dual, then that would be okay in my opinion. But like, I don't know, it's weird because I feel like this is probably going to be an anniversary exclusive character. and like it doesn't really wow me that much. Like there's really nothing new here that's kind of like, wow, that's super strong, I really want to get that. Yeah, I would love to own this unit still, but like it's not wowing me, honestly. It's not. Let's move on though. We've got the crewmate ability. It reduces their cooldown by 1 turn every time another slasher uses a special. What's their cooldown? 14 turns. Okay, reasonable, I guess. And then boost base attack of slashers by 150. Again, nothing really amazing. Now you've got their super tandem. The super tandem requires 2 of the following characters. You've got Kinemon, Kanjuro, Raizo, Ukiku, Doji, Dogstorm, Cat, Kawamatsu, Denjiro, Momo, Hiyori, Roger, and Whitebeard. Okay. And it applies a tandem slasher attack boost of 2.5 times to slashers for 1 turn. And further boost color affinity by 0.25. So I guess it's okay. It's fine. It does still require you to have 2 of those characters on your crew, which will kind of hurt. But I guess once again, if you're running mono slashers for whatever reason, a 2.5 tandem attack boost is pretty strong, and then also buffing the color affinity that this unit can provide by 0.25, becoming a 3 times color affinity boost. Yeah, you can see this character could kind of synergize as well. It's a pretty good set of skills here, but again, it's not really dropping my jaw. It's fine. We've got their switch effect here, which heals 5% of the crew's max HP, changes their own slot into Wano, boosts slasher orbs by 1.5 for 1 turn, but that orb boost can be overwritten by other orb boosting effects. I like it. I think that's actually pretty cool. It's not a bad effect at all. I don't see an issue with that. It seems reasonable to me. Pretty stock standard switch effect, honestly, but I like the overridable orb boost, which could have really good synergy with other characters moving forward. But then we also have their super switch, which in order to get it, you need to switch 7 times. 7 times. Heal the crew by 5% of max HP, changes their slot to Wano, changes adjacent slots into tandem, and makes the crew's recovery and tandem slots have matching slot effects for 1 turn. Actually, that's interesting because their captain ability doesn't even make tandem and Wano slots beneficial. Well, Wano slots already are beneficial, but tandem slots, you need to use another effect to make them beneficial. So I guess that's actually kind of strange, to be honest. And boost slasher characters' orbs by 2.5 for 1 turn. It is a pretty good switch effect, but 7 switches is kind of ridiculous, you know? So this unit by themselves can provide, you know, the 2.75 color affinity, which gets buffed to 3 times with a super tandem, a 2.5 tandem attack boost, and a 2.5 orb boost, all by themselves. In terms of utility, you know, they've got overhealing mechanics, they've got healing with their switch effect, and they've also got resistance down, which adds more damage, and also reduces despair and paralysis. So, you know, in a vacuum, it seems decent, but realistically speaking, not too many people are going to go out of their way to use mono slashes. It's just not really a thing, but it's pretty decent because if you can stack K-Dad with their final tap and a character such as this and get their super tandem to activate, you could get some pretty crazy synergy going on, for sure. But personally, I don't think, even if I had this unit, I don't even think I'd use this character all that much, but it does have some interesting stuff to talk about for sure. But in my opinion, the main reason why you want to get this unit is because I think this unit is actually really good in Rumble. We talked about Luffy and Yamato already, and they seem really good in Rumble, and I do feel like this unit also is going to be a good Rumble kit. So they are a dual unit once again, remember, so they are not going to be classified as a color, they're just going to be Slasher and Free Spirit. So Free Spirit and Slashers have already really good synergy. We already have really good Odins in Rumble, so it's going to be interesting to see how people try and fit this into teams. But let's go ahead and have a look. Their Rumble special, 34 CT, is pretty high. Targets enemies in a large horizontal range for 4 times damage. 100% chance of action binding for 5 seconds, which I assume the action bind only hits the characters in the large horizontal range. So you're doing damage to them, and then if they're not dead, you're action binding them for 5 seconds, which isn't that long, but it's still guaranteed hit, which is cool. And then when remaining HP is 50% or below, targets the team for a 100% chance of haste. I actually kind of dig that. That's pretty cracked. But at the same time, right, you have to think that if this character has such a high CT, they are likely going to be one of the last characters to launch their special. And if you're hasting all your characters to the top of the order and they've already used their specials, there's really no reason to do that, because all it does is it puts all your characters to the top of the order, they'll launch regular normal attacks, and then that gives more time for your opponents to launch their specials back at you. So, to be honest, I don't know, this could go either way. I feel like it is a good special on paper, but in practicality, I feel like this could actually kind of hurt your team, depending on your team composition and stuff. It's an interesting one to talk about for sure. Now, their Rumble ability, their Rumble passive, gives your whole team level 6 attack and level 6 speed, but then strength and quick characters specifically will get a level 6 attack buff and a level 6 recovery buff. Then when the remaining HP is 50% or below, he gives himself level 3 CT increase. So that could actually come into play, which is what I was talking about, where if all of your characters have launched the specials, then the haste doesn't actually matter. But once again, if he gives himself further CT and is able to launch his special a bit faster, then that effect of haste might actually be better. Especially if it's towards the late game, because he has to have 50% HP or below. So it is what it is. I think in normal Rumble, I'm not too sure if this character is going to be as good, but the thing that was very, very interesting that needs discussion is the character's GP abilities. So to launch his GP burst skill, you need to deal 50,000 damage to the opponent, which is actually pretty easy to do. Just if you win a regular match, you're dealing 50,000 damage in most cases. Then it says you can launch it twice. It targets 3 high defense enemies for defense down level 8. Then targets 3 enemies for leader's base attack times 3 times. That's a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage you're going to be doing to the opponent. But furthermore, which is the big thing here, after 50 seconds have passed, it targets all enemies for a 100% chance of half stats for 20 seconds. So a lot of people have read this and they've gone absolutely ballistic, thinking this is the most busted GP burst in the game. And I will say, if you do use this below 50 seconds, this is probably the best burst in the game. Not only are you going to just probably kill something, at least one thing I would think, but you're also doing half stats for 20 seconds. And if you're launching it in the last 50 seconds of the match, you're probably just going to win that, right? You should, if everything's going in your way. But the thing is I don't think this is better than Roger. I think that this is just a new version of Roger, right? Because with Roger, instead of dealing damage, to get his requirement, you have to take damage back. So it's a bit more defensive. And then when you use Roger's burst, it'll always give you the half stats. So you can use it at the start of the game, you can use it at the end of the game. It's just a different way to play the half stat game in Grand Party. So while I think this is a very good GP burst, you got to think, in order to get this to activate, you actually have to use this character on one of your teams, which means you have to build around this character in a way. So you do have to, keep that in consideration. While I do think this character has some really good stuff going on, yeah, I just think it's a different way to play Roger rather than just a straight up buff or replacement of Roger. Not saying it's a bad GP burst, because it's a very, very good GP burst, but the fact that you can't get it in the early game means that when the opponent in the early game, in the first 50 seconds, are dealing damage to you, you are still going to be tanking quite a lot of damage. Now, we move on to the GP leader skill, it giving buff to strength and quick, level 6 attack and defense, or level 6 attack, and then defense and CT up level 2, and then slashes will get HP, speed, and crit % up level 4. So it's actually a pretty good core of units. You can build really good teams around strength, quick, and also slasher teams as well. So I don't really think that this is that bad. Just that GP burst is absolutely bonkers. But in normal team building, I'm not really too sure what's the best team build to focus around this Oden and Toki character. But overall, when you compare this to the Luffy and Yamato, the Luffy and Yamato is miles above them in terms of almost everything that they do. This is a nice subsidiary character that you can use to buff your slasher teams, but realistically speaking, Luffy and Yamato are definitely the headliner unit that most people want to get their hands on when you compare these two characters together. But that is going to wrap it up for me in terms of the breakdown of Oden and Toki. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section. Really hope you guys have enjoyed this one today, and if you guys did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content that I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. I'm that, guys. I'll see you guys within the next video.